Hey folks, how you doing? 10/28/2014. It is 5:21 p.m. here on a Tuesday evening. Welcome to the second part of the Akashic. This time Andrew Bartz is on the table. Take a look at what he has to say. Some of the things anyhow. In the first video I was talking about connecting to your soul's energy and that of the journey that has occurred within this construct, this creation that we all created, co-creators, that's right. And I use the example of the double slit experiment within quantum physics as an example in regards to this holographic experience that we're having. Now, everything is the product of spirit. That is, the immortal spiritual being that you are, not the identity of what you are in regards to this physical or dense compacted frequency experience known as being a human. This is a fleeting identity. It will vanish eventually altogether. There may be some history or record of it that's recorded throughout the experience, but is it relevant to your soul's journey and path? What is the Akashic for? What is the reason for recording to begin with? It is to perpetuate creation in itself. It's to keep record of things in order to be able to have access to that which has been experienced, in order to create your version of architecture. Creation occurs on a lot of different levels. It occurs within this fragmentation. But in regards to the initiation or the beginning of a creation in general, how does it occur? Well, it occurs through the natural state of the immortal spiritual being, which is a formless non-entity, all-knowing, all-powerful. Is not limited to any space, because space is created by the immortal spiritual being, or that of time, for that is created as well. It's all part of the creation. So spirit is not limited to that of the micro or macro or distance, because all that is part of the creation. The creation comes from the Creator, which is the immortal spiritual being, that which we are in our natural state. That is what is called the essence of who we are. Everything else is a fractile or a subdivision of that. This experience is a fleeting identity. But the experience in itself is to see self differently. That is, from the immortal perspective, to be able to see self differently. To pretend to be something other than what you are in order to create a false sense of separation, in order to experience things deeply. But at the same time, you're always able to reconnect to your eternal self through the process of reincarnation, which is a manipulation by other beings in order to maintain their status quo and their state of existence, because they don't want to let loose of the identity that they have within that personification, because they fell in love with it and they just don't want to let go of it. They don't want to let go of it. So they do things whenever opportunity arises in order for them to get a grip on other immortal spiritual beings and manipulate what is going on with them in order for their state of existence to continue. And reincarnation is part of that program. Forgetting who you are is a program that exists within the multi-dimensional aspect of this frequency experience by the hands of those that wish to perpetuate their state of existence within that embodiment or persona. The idea of knowing your soul's journey or path and reconnecting with that energy, your eternal essence, the immortal spiritual being that you are, is for the purpose so that you can regain back your sovereignty and power and not be recycled over again. That was my reason for saying what I had to say in the first video. Again, the reason for the Akashic, or as it's called, which means space, ether, whatever. There's another word for it, but it's a Sanskrit word. It's a Vedic Sanskrit word, which is a precursor language to that of the classical Sanskrit. And that's really not that relevant. What's important is understanding the reason for keeping records. And I explain that, I believe, in respect it has everything to do with perpetuating creation. That's the reason for having the record. It's sort of like when you go into a creation, it's sort of like going into a particular classroom and pretending to be a student and to be able to learn, so to speak, because that's really not what you're doing. You're being inspired more than anything, because you already know how. You're being inspired to expand on your ideas, and you use others, individuals' ideas within the classroom, whether that be the students, quote unquote, or the masters, or the teachers. You're using them as a point of inspiration to do your own thing. And that's what we are doing. We're using one another as a point of inspiration within the subdivision of self that is within the embodiments, that is souls, because that's what I see, that's what a soul is. It's like a soul is very much like any other, well, let me stop and just say soul is an identity. But it's a temporary identity, regardless of what it is. Remember, the immortal spiritual being, spirit, has no confine when it comes to distance or space, because that's part of the creation. The reason why the creation is because of the Creator, and that is the immortal spiritual being. That's what you are. So within spirit, there's no confine. So you can occupy the space, so-called, of a galaxy, and be an immortal spiritual being of that galaxy. You are the galaxy. A planet, you can be the planet. They are just expressions to be able to experience self differently for the purpose of perpetuating the creation. But they are identities or souls, just like the embodiment within the physicality or the dense compacted frequency state of being a human being, quote unquote, is called a soul. But it's a fleeting identity. Some last longer than others, if you look at it from the perspective of linear time. Okay? But that's not what it's about. What it's about is perpetuating the idea of creation. And in order to do that, you need to be able to experience yourself differently, and that is the reason for soul or embodiments. And then you have interaction with other beings, which just compounds the experience. So, what is the reason for the record or the Akashic? It's for that. Everything else is superficial in contrast to that. And it's necessary to have drama, because all this stuff is very dramatic. And drama is what stirs interest. For those that may have looked at my video that I deal with in regards to the hyperdimensional conflict, part 1, the origin of creation, I talk about this in depth. And it's probably one of the better videos I've ever done. But, you know, a lot of people look at it and they go, oh, I don't understand it, or they think I'm making things up. But you got to understand, the whole universe is based on making things up. I didn't make this up. It is what I know based on my understanding from my connection to my eternal nature. I've had things that I've been exposed to that have reminded me of those things. But those things I already knew. I just because of belief systems and indoctrination, I didn't accept and embrace or pursue that understanding until later in my life. I'd written things down earlier in my life, certain things in relationship to the creation, and I just started writing, and with intent. And because of my belief system at the time, after I got done writing it down, I looked at it and it freaked me out because it was contrary to my belief system. And I was very perplexed by that. I was going, so it's always been there, as the same with you. It's always there. You just, belief systems and indoctrination and religion and all this other stuff has kept you from it, in order to keep you within a cycle of recycling you so that you can be used as a resource. Bingo. So, reconnecting to your soul's path, and that's plural, because spirit subdivides, bilocates different personifications or soul embodiments within different aspects of the creation. This is one of them. You can use the word fractal. To reconnect with that and your eternal essence of who you are. Again, your sovereignty and your empowerment, so that you're not duped. And you don't get that by listening to people and following other doctrines and teachings out there, regardless of how interesting it may sound to you. How you maintain a consistency of connection to the true aspect of what you are as an immortal spiritual being is through your own personal conviction and affections and endeavor to connect. And that is, I say inward, because that's where you go. Outward meaning through other sources outside of yourself. So using the word inward means you will find all you need within you. You just need to practice it or meditate in the process and connect to that energy and recognize it for what it is. So I guess I'm going to stop right there. I was going to get into talking about Andrew and what he communicates, but I have again I went into another direction, which I think was important to do. So I will pick up again in the following video and try to stay on track. I will do my best to stay on track, to communicate that, like I said, to look at the contrast between Andrew and Chris Thomas, and just to point out, you don't really need to get caught up in all that. Everything that you have is already available to you within you. You just need not be a stranger to it and feel the need to go outside of yourself. And, the mind energy, like I said, can put you in a place of anxiousness and put you in a place of fear, and can create a greater sense of separation from who you are as an eternal being, as an immortal spiritual being. It can create that sense of separation. Learn how to take that mind energy and bring it into heart energy. Bring it into submission, so that you can connect to who you are. Truly, your true identity, your eternal identity, rather than this temporal state. Because again, this is fleeting. Enjoy it for what it is, but allow the true sense of who you are to be the driver of the seat. Peace, everybody. I will get you on the backside of this in hopefully I will stay on track and I'll communicate what Andrew has to say up to a certain point. Peace. See you next time.